Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lovesick podcast. We are, first of all, we're excited that everyone's here. We're excited that you are all still listening, and we're excited for the new listeners here on the show. Um, I just want to point out right now because this is how amazing our reach is and what we love doing and how it is, you know, everyone all over the world. It's health and wellness is a huge, and it is what we are all going through. We're all united in this way, which I love. So I just wanted to just say thank you for joining us and being here, just everyone. So right now I have Cyrine, who is the founder and director of Positive on Glucose, and she is joining us from Beirut. And I have to say this. We get amazing guests and we have amazing experts and everyone who's dealing with their health challenges, and we are just excited that you're here. So thank you for that. Give you that. Um, I want to go to diabetes because that is what we are going to be talking about and going in depth in that. It is so I feel like this is the one chronic disease that everyone thinks they know because it is very right because it is so advertised on TV as like diabetes, this, this, and everybody knows what it is. I know, quote unquote, but it's not the case. And this is the one diagnosis that we have not discussed on our show, but I think it's very necessary because there is a lot more to it. Also, here in the States, it's you do this, you take this, you're fine. Diabetes, you're okay. But to speak for a wider range of the world, but also just as this chronic disease as a whole, I think we need to get more discussions about this. So I would love to know, your background, your story, and just what brought on what got you to do this positive on glucose. So we'll start with your background first.
So hi, I'm joining from sunny Beirut. My name is Cyrine Farhat. I'm almost 33 years old in October, and I've lived with diabetes for I think 17 years by now. Um, so a little background. I'm an only child, so my parents have always like kind of been overprotective. So you can imagine what it meant for them to be diagnosed with type 1. I also had an aunt who died of type 1. She was undiagnosed when she was 16. And it was like very traumatic for my dad when I was diagnosed. So I think I had the typical symptoms when I was 15. It was a post-war. We had a war in 2006 on Lebanon, and I lived through the bombings and relocating and all of that. And like 6 months after the war, I kind of developed type 1, and they kind of attributed it to whatever psychological state I was in. I don't know like how much research backs that up, but they thought it was kind of relevant to my experience and stress. And I had the normal symptoms, thirst, needing to go to the toilet so much, feeling kind of tired all the time. So my parents were concerned. They did some tests, and I was diagnosed with type 1. And I never forget that phone call my dad made to one of his brothers telling him that I have diabetes. Like, it was the first time I saw my dad cry. And for men in the Middle East, crying is a big thing. So, it breaks you a bit when you see your parents kind of a bit broken. And then, culturally here, it's kind of different, when you're diagnosed with something chronic and you're a girl. So I remember like when they let the family know, literally everyone came in the next couple of hours. They were like sitting and crying. And I felt like, is this my funeral? Like, hey, I'm still here. I'm a 15-year-old, like I have an entire life to live. Like, why are you crying? And it kind of hit me back then that I refused to let this define who I am as a person.
Mhm.
And that's all I've been trying to do ever since, you know. Some people tell me like you've rebelled against this, and like maybe yeah, but I refuse to be defined as just a girl who has diabetes and who would be limited to life choices and who she can be and what she can achieve, just because she happens to be a woman from the Middle East diagnosed with this chronic condition. And ever since then, I kind of pushed through to break the stereotypes. Coming through to why I created Positive on Glucose, it was actually after my dad was diagnosed with type 2 in 2018. So for me, it was a shock because like I had handled my diabetes so well for so long. I didn't have any friends with diabetes because here people don't really talk about diabetes as much as in the US. Like in the US, you see a lot of people on social media, and like you have camps for kids, and like we have this here, but very limited. So it's kind of hard to connect with other people who are open and willing to kind of share their diabetes. And so when he was diagnosed, I freaked out because I did not know much about type 2. And I know that dad, he tends to have depression, so I did not know how he will work with diabetes. And then and like all I can think about, even as a diabetic, was the complications, like how that would look like for him in 10 or 20 years, and I did not want that for him. So I started like looking for groups online, and I came across T1 International and the Internet for All campaign, and I kind of got more into the diabetes advocacy um, circle, and it helped me empower my dad, who was able to lower his HbA1c in 3 months from 13 to 5.5. And up till today, he does such good management. He doesn't take insulin. He has a great diet. He walks every day. Like so, he was kind of the first motivator for me to create Positive on Glucose. And it started as an Instagram page. I wanted to connect with people here in Lebanon. I wanted to kind of um, know people get together. And the next point that was very kind of changing or life changing for me was I actually had a stillbirth on New Year's Eve 2019.
I'm
I
so
gave
sorry.
birth.
Yeah,
It's
sorry
okay.
to hear
Sorry
about
to
that.
hear that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a stillbirth. My daughter was born on 1/1/2020. Her name is Joya. She was 36 weeks in my tummy. And I had undiagnosed preeclampsia. I had all the symptoms. I do a lot of reading and I do a lot of research. And you know, my gynecologist back then, she kept telling me like, no, you're being spoiled, like you're fine, all women swell. Like she never ran the tests, and just one day I woke up and my baby wasn't moving. And the first thing I heard when I got to the hospital and I got like I'm told that my baby died was it's because you're diabetic. Like it's a very common complication. And that I burned from the inside, you know. I was like, no, like hell no. Like it's not because I have diabetes, it's because you messed up and you put me in a box with a stereotype. That was the real, like the first real, I don't know, flame that kind of I wanted to kind of push for women and for people with diabetes in Lebanon and the region. That's how it kind of formally started to become a nonprofit. Like I had it registered. I started creating support groups. I started like pursuing certifications. So I'm a certified life coach, NLP practitioner, youth coach, access bars practitioners. I kind of went into the whole mindfulness with diabetes thing, and I wanted to help people because I realized that living with a chronic condition, whether it's diabetes or anything else, is exhausting, and you need a lot of tools to cope with it and to not be burnt out. And I was burnt out, and I lived with anxiety, and I lived with depression, and no one really could work with me as a diabetic living with all of these things. So I thought like there's something missing and there's something that needs to be done. And so this is how it kind of started. Long story short, it came from a lot of heartache. But I feel very honored, you know, to be able to walk this path. And I'm very blessed to have met my daughter, even though I didn't get to live with her. I feel like I was chosen for this in a sense. And
Mm.
I had the strength to work with this and to push through and create something out of it. And I really hope I can keep on doing that and help as much people as I can.
I just like you make me want to reach through and give you a hug.
I know.
You know,
Oh my.
I will tell you, I'm a big advocate for kind of taking our pain and turning it into something positive and let it being the motivator. I work with kids. I work with sick kids. Um, it's heartbreaking that you didn't get the support that you needed. And it's beautiful that what you did with that is become the support that other people will get. So no one has to experience it the way you did. And your daughter is going to be the guiding, shining light that kind of ushers in a lot of other little ones. And I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel very blessed, like, yeah.
Yeah, and what I would like to know is, one, how are you feeling now? Like since your diagnosis and it's been a while, how is your health today? And especially raising a young child.
So after I had my son, I actually had postpartum depression. And I was very aware that I was going through that, and like it brought up a lot. It brought up a lot of trauma from my previous pregnancy because funny enough, I got pregnant around the same time and I delivered around the same time. So I was going through all of the milestones again and panicking about like how that would look like. And I actually changed 3 gynecologists while I was pregnant this time because I trusted myself. I really listened to my voice and I kept pushing for the best care I can get. And that's how my son and I were kind of safe because I had a traumatic birth. I spent time in the ICU. My son spent time in NICU, so like it wasn't easy, and it was very traumatic. And I had little support after giving birth. I had a C-section. I was on my own, and I started having panic attacks, and so that takes a toll on diabetes. And when people see like you have an HbA1c of 10, they're like, you're a bad diabetic. But like they don't look at everything you're struggling with and how hard it is to cope with all of these emotions and all of these stressors and being a new mom and having to breastfeed and having to juggle and like going back to work 2 months later because here we don't have like an extended maternity leave. So I felt like I had now 2 full-time jobs, not just diabetes, but also being a mom, which are 2 roles that I never can take a day off from. And I'd be lying if I tell you it's easy. It's hard up until today. Some days are just so hard. But I kind of learned to cope and take it one day at a time. I think I only experienced diabetes burnout once I actually became an advocate in the past 5 years because like it was not just me. Now I cared about so many people and like I saw so many stories and I heard so many traumatic experiences and you kind of carry that with you. And especially like living in this region and living in the Middle East and living in Lebanon, having to go through constant war and like having friends in Gaza, like I have friends in Gaza who are members of the group. And it's this constant burden, it's hard. So I think I'm coping well, but I do admit it's very hard on some days.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine that's very difficult, especially when you're raising a young child as well. What type of treatments do they provide in your country for your diagnosis?
So we did used to have a healthcare system, like a social security net where you get reimbursed for your medication. I used to be on insulin pens and test strips. Sensors only came into Lebanon, I think, in 2018, the Freestyle Libre one. Just yesterday, I was able to buy my first Freestyle Libre 2. So we don't have XComs, we don't have Omnipods, we don't have any of these.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I had access to NovoRapid, insulin pens, and Tresiba for the longest time, and I had a GoFundMe after I lost my daughter. Someone helped me raise money to buy my first pump because it's out of
Right.
pocket and it's super expensive. So I had my first Medtronic. I call it the dinosaur pump because it's like the oldest version. And just recently, I also got my 640, like just 2 months ago, because everything here is out of pocket. And we had a great economic collapse in 2019, so our currency devaluated like 1,000%. It's similar to what
Oh my
happened in
gosh.
Venezuela. So the healthcare system crashed, and now there is no social security fund, so everything is out of pocket and it's very expensive. So there was a time where the minimum wage, let's say, was at some point during the crisis, the minimum wage was like $70 per month, and insulin and supplies cost you $400, $500 per month. So can you understand like where all the burnout comes from? Like all the people that we thought they're out of insulin or need help finding, it was a burden. It's hard, and up till today I still stockpile just in case I need to help someone in crisis. And up till today I have to pay out of pocket because there's no healthcare system. So it's very expensive to be diabetic or sick.
Yeah.
Mm.
um, and honestly, like in Lebanon, it keeps getting worse. Like every time we think it hit rock bottom, we learn that there's like this new level of hell that you keep going downward.
Right.
Like they say Lebanese are the happiest depressed people, so we just cope very well with all the craziness. Yeah, it
Wow.
sucks.
I I actually this is fascinating. I want to get to there. I just do need to back up a little bit with the first diagnosis of diabetes and what steps, because you were how old again?
15.
Right. So being a parent and then you have a 15-year-old that is diagnosed with something that I don't know how familiar your dad or family was with this, but as a 15-year-old already navigating this like teenage life, what was that like for you in that, not just the moment, but just learning how to live this new reality, and then teenage life is already and so like what was that like for you at that when you learned this?
Yeah. So going back to my parents being overprotective, my first 2 years with diabetes, I was not allowed to go out with my friends.
Mm.
Nothing. So it was very isolating. And I kept feeling like an alien for a very long time. I think I only started to kind of feel normal like when I was like, around 24, or like when my husband my now husband kind of came into my life. But for the longest time, I don't necessarily say I hid it. I used to say I'm diabetic, but I used to feel kind of isolated. I didn't have any friends that looked like me in a sense, and it was very, very hard. And adding on top of it, very overprotective parents. I used to go to something called the Chronic Care Center. It's like an NGO that helps kids with diabetes up until the age of 21. And my anxiety came from that, because like I remember this little book where I had to write all my numbers, and I used to try to avoid writing the highs because I would get like, being told that I'm not being a good diabetic. And as a kid, that's very stressful. I used to do all these tricks. If I'm sure that I have high blood sugar, I would put some water and then I would prick my finger. So the like I did all the tricks in the book. So I think my anxiety came from that. It was very hard to kind of feel under a microscope all the time and be like observed all the time, and needing to be perfect, like have the perfect range, have the perfect HbA1c, have the perfect management. As a kid, that's not great. So it was tough. And like for my parents, although like I had an aunt who had diabetes and I have an uncle who lives with diabetes up until today, they didn't know a lot about diabetes. And up up until today, like I'm 33 almost, my mom, whenever I need to inject, she would look away and cry because like she still hopes, like she's like, oh, there's gonna be a cure. I'm like, mom, like I live with this. I don't think about the cure. I live with this. So it's I think it was very, very heavy for them. And like we come from a kind of low income family. My mom doesn't work. My dad did some freelance job, so we didn't not have a stable income. And even though that was a financial burden for them, and for the longest time, I felt like a burden. I had to do a lot of therapy around that. So I don't think it was that easy for them. It was very hard. It still is.
I think that's a crazy part. Like mom, like you My mom has sarcoidosis, has had it since you were 20,
42 years now,
or
I think.
42 years.
40, yeah.
So to feel alone in something that no one else around you has and knows anything about, like that's that's a whole other deep rooted thing to go through as well. So I just that's
Actually 40. Actually, I'm sorry, 40 years.
40 years, yes, because you have, well,
that's a long time.
Yeah, that's a long time. And she was, well, you can do a little brief on your story, but you know, that was something that wasn't a diagnosis that people knew about, and that was just a very, I'm sure, trying time. Well, I can't speak for you, Mom, but
no, you're doing fine.
Yeah. but even
you're doing
through,
fine.
but even through the postpartum, so I do want to chat with you about that, because I have two kids. I have my kids back to back, and I always talk about this on the show. So if I say it a million times, sorry, but it's the truth. Our postpartum threshold is a way where it's like, if you don't want to harm yourself or the baby, you're not really having any postpartum issues. So for a minute, right? Exactly. That's what I did too, because it was like, oh well, then if that's the case, then obviously I'm not going through anything. So I'm just a tired mom. And you know, it took me a while actually to realize, no, I'm having some postpartum issues. So to do that, and then I don't know at the time now, if you felt like you had if you had diabetes under control for yourself, but that on top of it is like a whole other layer of postpartum, and that's a lot. How did that make you feel? That's
So I remember my first hypo. It was like 1 week postpartum, and I had a panic attack because like what I thought of when I was having the hypo, I'm gonna die. Who's gonna feed my baby?
Mm.
You know,
yeah.
and that triggered a lot of issues for me. Like I am now responsible for this little life, and I need to be alive to keep this person alive. And what I did was I kept myself high all the time
Mm.
because that felt like a safe space. So I'm there for him. And I think like the brick of the iceberg was like 3 months, I think, postpartum. I was driving on a highway and my brain just stopped. So imagine this, you know, when you drive, you never think of like where your feet are on like the brake and the gas or whatever. And it just my brain freeze and I was like, what am I stepping at? Where are the brakes? Where's the gas pedal? Like, how do I drive? And I just froze. My brain just literally stopped. And for me, like that was like the point where I was like, okay, I need to go back into therapy. I need to work on this. There's something not working right. I might be a coach and I might know a lot of mental tricks, but no, like this needs help. I'm not okay. And that was the point where I went back into therapy. I did a lot of therapy, and then I was on medication. Then I went off medication, and I think like up till today, it's been a year and a half. I'm still trying to define who I am because it's so hard, you know, when you're a mom. I actually did a podcast on this. It's called Find Your Pink. We did like 10 episodes, but it's in Arabic. But we hosted moms, and I wanted to feel less isolated as a mom because if what I learned is all moms lose their pink, you know? We lose a sense of who we are. And imagine on top of that, I have a chronic condition that is exhausting. And so up till today, I'm learning who Cyrine is, you know, what she likes now, how she likes to dress, how she takes care of diabetes, how she likes to exercise, because the new me is not the me that was 5 years ago or a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. And that's okay. I think we need to normalize that it's okay to have postpartum depression. It's okay to break down. It's okay to relearn who you are and re-love who you are and redefine your life. It's okay.
Yeah, and I think it's important. I think it's natural because you can't be the same person forever. Who you are before you have kids is not the same as who you are after, and your
That's the
role
truth.
changes as they grow, right? And
Yep.
then, I'm on the other side of that because my kids are out of the house and have gone off to school and everything. That's also another transition, right? I'm still their dad, but they're off in the world being their own people, right? Like, so I think it's normal, and I I think we do ourselves a disservice trying to define who we are based on a past idea or the world's idea around us, because we're not supposed to stay the same forever.
Yep. Very true.
That's true. And you mentioned that, correct me if I'm wrong, did you mention that you are married? You have a husband?
Yeah, yeah. I knew my husband when I was back in college in 2009, and we kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuck to each other. Yeah, today actually is our wedding anniversary. It's been
Oh,
6 years.
Oh,
happy
happy
anniversary.
Happy
anniversary!
anniversary.
So, and
Well,
like,
I was just wondering how does it affect you both as a couple with
Yeah.
your diagnosis? Has it affected you in a negative or more positive relationship?
yeah, so I remember when we wanted to tell his parents that we wanted to get married and like that we were gonna get engaged. And again, going back to the Middle East, and I feel like Lebanon is a bit more different than so many other countries in the Arab world. Like it's more updated and like liberal. But as a woman living with diabetes, the first question I was asked was, "Is it contagious?"
Hmm.
The second question I was asked was, "Can you have kids?"
Mm.
And so, like, I understood where his parents were coming from. I understood, like, if I was a mom and my kid brings home a girl with some condition that I don't understand, I would have had questions.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I did is I kind of welcomed these questions and I
Hmm.
had a professional answer them because I did not want to be biased. And ever since it's just fine. They've understood what it means. They've understood like my in-laws what it takes. That's for my husband. He's been my number one supporter since day one. Like he pushed me to create positive on glucose. He still pushes me. Like I had severe burnout. I wanted to stop doing what I do, and he's like, "No, you're not. Like this is who Cyrine is. Like this is your passion. So you keep pushing." And so he pushes me to push. He actually at some point, because like I met a lot of people from Instagram, and at some point, he was the person like on the page connecting to these people and then telling me like, oh, this person you should talk to, this person. One of them is like one of my best friends now. So like he has better connections with these people than I do. Like when we're out with people with diabetes, like he asks them, "Are you low? Do you need me to go get some juice? Like this is high in sugar. Be careful." Like he's like he's the best. And of course, sometimes diabetes has a strain on our relationship. When I'm not taking care of myself, he gets mad because he wants me healthy. And
Right.
these are things that we fight about sometimes. Um, but it comes from place of love, and I understand that. So yeah, oh, I love him so much.
Oh, I think that's
Well, it sounds like
beautiful.
he's amazing.
Cyrene,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. Like, that's the beauty, right? Is to have someone who will walk this journey with you, right?
Yes.
And I can tell you, having been the partner, having been on
Mm-hmm.
that side of things, is like you you almost become like at times, you didn't take your medicine, or why didn't you take your medicine, right? And it's coming from a place of love, but that can be so hard to receive at times.
Mm-hmm.
But it also is really beautiful because it means somebody is as committed to your well-being as you are, right? Maybe sometimes more, because like to listen to him take care of other people, it means he learned from you and now he's kind of sharing that.
Yeah. Oh, the juice boxes is not for other people.
But I love that because we have sometimes and who have dealt with partners leaving because they just don't understand and they don't want to learn and they're just like, I don't want to deal with this, and they go. And so I think it's a beautiful thing that you have a very supportive husband that is learning and being your advocate, but then also like being on you to make sure you were taking care of yourself and doing the same. So that's a blessing. That's awesome.
I
I
thought that
love
Yeah.
that.
was so smart too that you brought in a third party, an outside expert,
Yes.
so that they could ask whatever questions they wanted and not have to just universally trust or think that you were being biased. That was a great way of kind of diffusing that, I think, and I hope people heard that and keep that in mind. Is if you can find the right advocate for you and with you, that's a great way because yeah, people will have questions and yeah, there are concerns, but
Yeah.
we're all living with something in some way, and this group is an example of that, right? And so I think to be smart and put it in a way like that where they can kind of disarm that and have an honest conversation. And then what a beautiful family you've built.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I think it's only fair to give people the space to ask questions because it's only natural, like when there's something you don't understand, you're gonna react. It's not personal. It's not personal against me. They just want to understand this thing that they as a family, because you also marry the family, not just the person. They as
Mm-hmm.
a family need to live with and support. And their kid, their this person that they raised and did such a great job raising, and like it's all money, sweat, and tears. They want him to have a happy, comfortable life. So it's only natural for them to want to understand what this is. And I think sometimes because we live with the condition and like we advocate for ourselves for so long, some people tend to get a bit bitter or defensive. And I think we need to lower our barriers, like chill. It's hard on people who love us too. And they need to understand what they're getting themselves into, or else they are going to walk out sometime in the future. Just get yourself a person who understands and who wants to commit to a life with this. Because when my husband married me, he married my diabetes as well.
Mm.
So
Yes,
I
Yep.
would rather a million times get experts and make sure that he's on board than marry someone who is not on board and end up, wasting time and
so
getting a
true.
divorce or separating. Like,
It's true.
Yeah,
I'm gonna take Michael's words. We're always gonna we're gonna end up with something sometime, right? So it's like if you leave that person because they have something, someone else might be taking care of you later. So it's just a matter of like, are you in it through the sickness and health? I actually
hmm
do have a question about your dad. So how was your dad when he was diagnosed with his type 2 diabetes, right? You said? And what was the relationship with the two of you and having to maybe defer to you? Did he defer to you now for certain things like since he was diagnosed?
so when he was first diagnosed, because like he had his when he was diagnosed, the day he was diagnosed, his blood sugar was 700.
Oh
And he
wow.
walked into the
Ooh,
ER and they're like, "How are you walking? Like, are you okay?" And
Wow.
he's like, "I'm fine. I don't feel a thing." I was on my honeymoon. They only told me like 2 weeks later. So, um, I think it was a lot of education around food and a lot of education about exercise for type 2 and a lot of education around that it is reversible for him. Like, you don't have what I have, so please try to work on this. And he did. He was so committed. He was so committed. Like he would have fixed meals on time. He would go for his 1 hour walk every single day. Like even now, he still goes on his 1 hour walk every single day. And because like I educated him, he felt like he had so many resources and so much information. He started educating others, and he created like this walking group in the neighborhood, like where like 3, 4 men would walk together every day. And like for me, it was inspiring. Like I never imagined my dad to actually do that. So I guess like just being well informed and feeling like he had someone who backs him up
Mm.
um, did help him take over his care. And like this is for me where the whole advocacy and support comes from. Like that's why we do support groups. And like my support groups are like AA meetings because I feel like we're addicted to certain things when we're diabetic.
right.
And like having the safe space to talk about them and to talk about the challenges and to know that these people will love you no matter what.
Mm.
They're gonna push like they're gonna be your biggest advocates. I've seen people lower their A1Cs in 3 months without going to the doctor, without, they just, the support, it made them feel in control. And they just took control over what they eat,
Mm-hmm.
how they eat, how much insulin they take. So, yeah, I learned that from my dad, and I kind of started using it with other people, and it works. And I think it would work with other conditions. I think that's the missing piece with healthcare now. Like, we don't have this holistic approach, you know? We don't look at like mind, body, and soul when we're dealing with a condition. And sometimes, like, it happened to me. I went to an endocrinologist, and my blood sugar was so high. And like, she didn't ask me a lot of questions. She just raised my basal rate. She didn't ask me if I was taking insulin. And back
Mm.
then, I was just not taking insulin. So we don't ask questions. We don't look at the person. We look at the patient, like just someone like we have to see for 15, 20 minutes and then next, text. And once we start asking their questions and actually sitting with the person and tuning to them and listening to them, it changes the way care is delivered and the outcome. And just rounding back to my dad, I think that's what I learned from him. That just being supported and loved and knowing that he has someone that he can come to that will love him whether his blood sugar is 300 or 100.
Mm.
Right.
It gave him the push to kind of take great
Yeah.
care of
For the people, the LA people, I'll say, who are on their Ozempic kick and who are taking insulin. And I know your company is, I know Positive on Glucose is a little bit outside of not the insulin and stuff, but curious to know your thoughts on just, the amount of people here who are dealing with diabetes and then the amount of people who want to shed the weight and they are on the Ozempic. Just curious your thoughts.
Okay, so it's not really about the Ozempic, it's about the easy way out. I don't know how Ozempic is an easy way out because I know it has a lot of nasty side effects and it's not like the nausea, like all these things. But for me, like easy go, easy come back. So if as a coach also, like if you're not really doing the effort to change your lifestyle, the way you eat, how mindful you are, what you have in your diet, how much you exercise, are you really changing things? Like how much would this Ozempic thing work for you? You know? I learned that the hard way. Because like it's not a magic trick, you know? Like for me, with Ozempic, you might lose the weight in 6 months, a year, but really, if you commit to a better lifestyle where you are present in your body, where you are aware of what you eat in the morning and at lunch and at dinner, and how you spend your day, and how much you exercise, and what kind of exercise brings you joy, and if you journal, and like all of these things, they're gonna change your life for the next 50 years. They're gonna shift your perception of life. And for me, I don't like the easy way out because it's not something that will last forever. I feel like the more you're committed to be the best version of yourself, you would transform physically and emotionally and all of the things. So it's not just being against the Ozempic, it's being against the easy way out because that's what I see it.
I think I think that's the essence of being a coach, right? You can cheat in the short term, but but it looks like you got somewhere, but then there's a rough stop, right? Usually,
Right.
where you go back, like you said. The real thing is to put in work, and the thing is, as you make those changes, the other thing from what you talked about with your dad and you and your life is you find people along the journey who share the journey with you and make that much more enjoyable when you're actually doing it, right? Who value you for you, not for this cheated version or the shortcut, right? And I think as a coach, that's, to me as somebody who's coached too, I'm always like, yeah, it's a little more work in the beginning, but all the good things require that.
I mean, at the end of the day, you're really just lying to yourself.
Hmm.
Like, who are you lying to? You're lying to yourself. So, like, how strong willed are you to stand in front of the mirror and tell yourself, listen, we're gonna change and it's gonna be hard and we won't see progress immediately, but it's gonna be worth it. And that's what I tell myself every time I go to the gym because I hate it. But I tell myself when I go and this is good for us. Like when we're 60 and 70, I'm still gonna be able to hold my grandkids and like I'm gonna be strong and toned. So like this is for that version of Syrian. So let's do this. So yeah, but, I've walked all different paths of life, and like some like advocacy led me to different places, and like as much as I think I know everything I know about diabetes, I still learn a lot from people because like just recently, like over the past year, I got to work with refugees through like work with MSF, Doctors Without Borders, and like it sucks. It sucks sometimes, like seeing these people live in tents and figuring out how to cool their insulin and in the winter burning off rubber slippers to heat, like it's sometimes so tough. And as a diabetic, like seeing other diabetics live through that, it's um it's so hard. So like my question was like one of the things I asked for me is like how do you pick these people up? How do you coach these people? Because like they're at the bottom of the of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like they're down there with safety and food and shelter. So like how do I tell them about motivation and needing to exercise and eat healthy? They can't even afford to buy lettuce.
Right.
So it's hard.
Well, you are making a difference though in your country because you are helping people and you're getting the word out of, having that support for individuals that's going through the same thing that you're going through. So that has to be a great feeling and actually help you with your diagnosis because it gives you a more positive outlook because you know that you're using yourself as an example to help others in your country.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Cyrine, what's the dream? What's the dream from here?
I have a lot of dreams, honestly. One of my first dreams is to be able to put women with type 1 diabetes on pumps because a pump is a luxury. To be able to afford a pump here is a luxury. And that's like a little dream I have on the side someday. I have like this little project called the Joya Fund. My daughter's name is Joya. To help women really cope with diabetes while pregnant, like have all the education, all the support throughout their journey. Um, Other dreams would be just to kind of, like I made this whole life revolve around diabetes, and I sometimes think I shouldn't have, because it's exhausting. Like now, I'm also doing my PhD, and like it's also about insulin pricing and ethics, and like what pharma does to lower prices and how ethical their companies are. Like everywhere in life, there's something that has to do with diabetes, and sometimes I feel like was that healthy for me to do? But I think because it comes from a place of I want everyone that with diabetes to feel like they're supported and they have a chance to be someone and to do something, and that life is there for them to kind of live it wherever they are in the world. So that's the dream. How do I get there? I don't know. I just do my best every day. And I try to work with organizations that have like shared values. So, but yeah, is that a valid dream?
Of course. Is it a valid dream? It's a beautiful dream.
Yes.
And maybe forgive me if I overstep, but I think it is one of the most beautiful dreams a person could have. It's a dream to have a life that is fulfilling and to lift others, to carry Joya's name forward. How do people contribute to that? Is there a way for people to contribute to move you towards that dream?
I've been doing this work now for 5 years almost. And I've partnered with some of our organizations, like one of them, again, is Doctors Without Borders, and we do a lot of advocacy together, and we try to create support groups and all of the things. Um, but I think, what really sucks is like you see all these big organizations with so much funding, and they don't really look at the tiny people doing great work. And I see myself as a very tiny organizations in a tiny country. And I see myself doing great work because I know where my heart is. So I really hope more organizations like mine and others that are doing great work given their limited resources. I worked for 3 years out of pocket. Just get the funding they deserve to really help people because we know what people need because I am from the people, you know.
Mhm.
I've seen everything, you know, refugees, people in tents, people who like there was once this guy who rented off his apartment and lived in his convenience store with his son to be able to still buy insulin for his son. Like so you see all these people from all walks of life, and like these people deserve the help they deserve. So I really hope funding goes to right places. Like, this is a big ask. Um, so we don't really multiply the work, but really help get things done where they need to be done.
I I think we underestimate, and yet if anybody's ever met somebody like you, or even like your dad who started a group of people, right? Change has always started local, right? Like you change people's lives because they get to know you. That's the only thing about big organizations is they become an infrastructure and there's all these big pieces and the money starts getting divided up, and no knock against them, they're well intended, and I think they do great work, but I hope people hear this and will turn to people like you and support local people, because the local people in your community doing kind acts are the ones who are going to change the most lives. And I hope you realize and have given yourself enough credit to realize that while it may feel like at times you're not changing the world, you are changing someone's world almost every day. And I think you are changing the world very much so, maybe more than you realize. And I will tell you, I am honored and inspired to sit across from you and to share this and to hopefully have other people see you and highlight what you're doing. I hope both that people join you and reach out and find you, but I also hope that people start their own things to help the people closest to them.
I have to say that was so healing to hear
Mm.
because like I sometimes really forget, you know. And like when you're doing like I think I have imposter syndrome. Like I don't really see what I do, but yeah, like one thing I would say from like what you just said is just reach out and help people. Like we don't realize how much power we have. I don't know how we forget, but we have so much power,
Yeah,
and we can really change lives around us. Like we are that powerful. So yeah, I really just hope people reach out more and just help people around them because in such an unkind world, that's what we need more of now.
I don't think anything changes the world more than an act of kindness.
100%, 100%. I would
I
love to,
totally agree.
yeah, I would love to hear about positive on glucose and how it came about, and you could just tell us a little bit more about this organization.
Yeah, so we're a teeny tiny organization. It's most of the days just a one woman job that is me and people who volunteer. Um, we started due to COVID actually. Our first support group session was I think in April 2020, and it was called A1C support. Like wanted to support people with lowering their HbA1c. We were just four people. One person from the US, one person from Gaza, one person from I think KSA, and one person from Spain. Because it was so hard to find people who are local, like people with like in Lebanon, were so hard to find. So although my intention was to find people here, I connected more with people abroad. And just it grew because of word of mouth, and people just kept joining the support group. And now we're a global support group that has like 100 members. Back in COVID days, we used to do like a call every week, every Thursday at 7. And some of them are educational, where we'd have people volunteer, like dietitians or um, people who would do like meditation class or yoga class, or we would just do like a support group conversation. So we would have a certain question, we would all talk about our experiences. And it was so healing to so many because I remember this girl from Egypt. Um, she had hidden her diabetes for 15 years. No one knew, not even her aunts or uncles. No one knew. Can you imagine?
Wow.
And so that time she joined, I think by the third session she came out. You know, it was like you're coming out. She
Right.
told everyone that she's diabetic, and she started injecting in public. Like there are these little stories. Like there was once this girl who wanted to get married, so she brought her fiance to join one of the support group sessions, so he would learn more about diabetes. Um, you would. What really amazed me was all these nurses or healthcare professionals who wanted to sit and listen
Mm-hmm.
because they felt like they've never really listened to what diabetes feels like, and it changed how they changed their path with their career later on. Um, and I find that very, very beautiful and just kind of grew from there. So it was like an online support group. Now we started actually doing physical support groups. And I started partnering with local organizations and international organizations here. And to be honest, I don't know how that happened. I did not have a plan. I got to speak on a few international roundtables with the WHO, and like it was great. Honestly, I don't know how that happened, and I don't know how MSF found me. Also, sorry, like they also they came across me from one of the online events. Like I wrote a comment on the chat, and someone reached out to me. There was these little, points that just kept me going, and I would meet someone, and then meet someone who helps meet someone. And I actually got to do my first consultancy with MSF last year. We're still doing it. Like we're creating peer support groups in Bekaa and Lebanon. I got to work with refugees and see these amazing people and their very different challenges, and see like how much support really some people need with diabetes. Um, and it's been great. And whenever I feel like I'm losing faith or like it's getting tough, I just something happens and I just meet like the way I kind of came across you guys. Like I get to talk about this now. So yeah.
Divine sparks, divine reminders, right? Then I would say, it's like something that hits the water. It's all those reverberations. It's all the little waves and circles going out and getting bigger. And you may not be able to see how big they are, but Cyrine, somewhere far away, there's kind of a tsunami of kindness coming out of you.
Yep. Yep. I love it. I'm like,
Yeah,
literally, I would
too.
love to just be in touch with you after this.
Yeah, I'm like, I want to help.
Yeah,
I love that. Just
Yeah.
again making it one thing COVID taught me, and I know it sucked, but like the human connection, like people are amazing.
Yeah.
Like every person, the baddest person, there's somewhere inside where there's light, and you just have to find the right tool to get that light out. And like the human connection is it's so beautiful. I don't know how we forgotten this. People are so busy. I see them running around all the time, and like you just stop connecting to people. And you know, in 2020 we had the August 4th explosion. I don't know if you heard about it. It was the second biggest nuclear explosion in the world. And we wanted to help people with diabetes. And so people started reaching out to me, coming from abroad, wanting to get supplies in their luggage.
Mm.
And we helped so many people. You can't imagine. Like someone who knows someone who's coming, they would send me insulin. They would send me test strips. They would send me glucometers. We helped so many people. People just donate and help. And like people are capable of doing amazing things if they come together. And we forget that. I think
Yeah.
we really need to always be reminded how much we can help others.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we are better with numbers. It's always better to have like a village versus the one person, because the village is definitely going to help support your mission. And that's what it's all about, the community and uplifting and helping in any kind of way, even like moral support, someone that can talk with other people just to give them some positive, positive, what do you call it? I'm sorry, I can't even think of the word right. Affirmations. So to let people know, you speak it into existence, like you're doing that right now, just by all the things that you said you would like to do. And I believe in that. I believe when you speak things into existence, it happens. It happens. So you just keep doing what you're doing, and believe me, it will totally work, and it will be something amazing that you never thought would happen.
Yep. 1,000%. Thank you. Like
the light that's inside them.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Cyrine, for brightening my light, for reminding me of things to do, for giving me another motivation, and for being a symbol for people around you, for being a reason for people to do the kind, the loving, the light, as opposed to settling into selfishness or their own pain.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for coming and sharing with us too.
And how do people get in touch with you, and how do people find your organization, and what can we do to help support and boost? Tell us all the things.
So the easiest way is to reach out by email. That's the quickest thing I respond to usually. You have an Instagram. I don't respond as fast as I used to Instagram because kids and life, and also I actually have a full-time job, so other than this, like I actually work. And yeah, I'm really happy to help and support and be a safe space. We do give free coaching to anyone with diabetes who needs it. So if anyone needs any coaching, just hit us up, and we're more than happy to connect.
You might want to tell people your email address as well.
Yeah, so it's actually possibleglucose@gmail.com. I don't know if we can write it later.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can reach out to me.
And I'm sure people will definitely reach out. What you're doing is totally phenomenal, and we need a lot of people like you in the world. People that's not selfish and think about the journey of other people and how your journey can help someone else. And that's where it starts. It starts with you having that compassion, which you have, for other people, and just because genuinely you want to help. And that just goes a long way. It really does, because you are a person that's also battling your illness, but yet you have this huge heart that's helping other people too. You're not thinking about yourself, you're thinking about how can I help people get funding, to get the right supplies for their illness and anything else that they need, because you guys pay a lot out of pocket there. And I'm sure they appreciate you. I'm very sure they appreciate you. And you just don't find that. You don't find that in a lot of people. And I would just say, the more you do, the more blessings will come your way. And that's for sure.
I'm speechless. Thank you, really. Like, oh, I'm trying not to cry because my mascara is not waterproof.
Well, thank you for being our blessing today.
Thank you, seriously.
And celebrate with your husband. Happy anniversary again.
Yes, happy anniversary.
And your little one. What a beautiful thing to have a beautiful family that you built and fought hard for. And you're building kind of a secondary family of people who are connecting. Thank you. Thank you for that gift you give to the world.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys, for being such a safe space. Like, I hope this goes to the right people.
It will.
I hope it reminds them. Reminds them that inside they are light and they are capable of so much. So
right.
And I'm going to reach out. If you ever have one of those days where you don't feel right or you need a reminder, don't hesitate.
Also, if you need some mom stuff, like some mom venting, please. Also, I am also here. So please just like let me. And if you're chronic illness, go up this Dorothea woman. So you've got us all
That's
in
right.
different capacities. Like,
And
please.
I'm a motivational speaker as
Yeah,
well.
please
So,
utilize all of us. Like we're here. Like
yes,
I'm so honored to meet you, and I think
absolutely.
we do this show for a reason, and I'm always in awe of people we meet, and it's like we're serving a purpose. We're doing our thing too, but then I'm always in awe of people we meet because it's just like just so beautiful, and we just love it, and I'm just so excited, and I appreciate you sharing your story and also taking time earlier to chat with me, or yesterday for you to chat with me for a second, and I just this morning, but I think we there's a lot of stories to tell. There's a lot of things that I think we collectively, all of us, are doing things to make sure people don't feel alone,
Right,
whatever they're going through, and I think this was great. And I say this every time, but I
right.
love meeting people.
Cyrine, you're special. You're very
Yes,
special.
you are. It's amazing, and we
You're very
appreciate
special.
you seriously. And I just thank you for just being open and sharing your journey, and it's great.
And it does, when you say that you hope it get in the right people, as far as seeing this, you have to always remember, even if it just touches one person, you've done a lot.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's definitely going to reach other people, but just having one person.
Well, me too, because I want to talk to you about more of the postpartum crap. I call it crap because it's freaking crap. But yeah. So thank you, and I thank you for coming in, and happy day and lovesick. We're all here. Thank you guys for joining us for another show. And we just do what we Michael with the hearts. We do what we can to I don't know if anybody's gonna see it because I'm talking, but we do what we can to to bring awareness, and we appreciate meeting you, and thank you all for listening and watching and tuning in like you always do, and thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cyrine.
Thanks, everyone.